Hello, all. For today's Prayercast, I want to read an excerpt from a really nourishing and challenging book that I've been reading called Native Identity, Belonging, and Rediscovering God. I had to think about that. By Kaitlin B. Curtice. I've decided that this is going to be the next book that we have a courageous conversation with over Zoom. That'll be in November, so get a copy of this. Contact Grace Church if you need help getting a copy of this. It's an incredible book, and I want us to read it and discuss it in November because it's been really helpful to me. I'm going to read the blurb on the back. Native is about identity, soul searching, and the never ending journey of finding ourselves and finding God. As both a citizen of the Potawatomi Nation and a Christian, Kaitlin Curtice shares what it means to experience her faith through the lens of her Indigenous heritage and encourages us to embrace our own origins. That part has been really fascinating to me because I am not Indigenous, I am a white person. And as we've been having these discussions about race with Grace, I have been coming to understand more and more fully what it means that whiteness is a construct. It is a facade, a dream that we constructed in order to give ourselves power over others and to dominate others. And so when we strip away the whiteness that we often don't even notice coats ourselves, um, what remains? What is there? And even though Kaitlin Curtice is writing about her own experience as a Potawatomi woman, she also talks a lot about whiteness because she is white passing and assimilated into whiteness at a young age. And so um, having to peel that back on herself to really get back to her origins means that she talks about whiteness a lot. And that's one reason I want to bring this book to Grace, because it's about finding our origins, whatever they are. And so I'm going to read her very first chapter, an excerpt from that, where she talks about how she came to learn that she needs to get back to those roots and encourages all of us to do the same. Indigenous bodies are bodies that remember. We carry stories inside us. Not just stories of oppression, but stories of liberation, of renewal, of survival. The sacred thing about being human is that no matter how hard we try to get rid of them, our stories are our stories. They are carried inside us. They hover over us. They are the tools we use to explain ourselves to one another, to connect. We cannot take away the experiences of others, but we can learn from them. We can take them and say, what is next to make the world better? What is the next step in recognizing the sacredness of this place we've been given? I often wonder if we underestimate the power of epiphany. Many indigenous cultures seek wisdom, the Great Spirit, or even the spirits of our ancestors, those who have gone before us, through visions, dreams, and prayers, through the gifts given to us in this world. This idea of longing for a vision or learning to listen to our ancestors is often lost in American society, within modern American Christianity. But what if God still speaks in dreams and visions? That's how it happened for me, at least, one cold January day in Atlanta, Georgia. I currently live on land traditionally inhabited by the Muskogee Creek and Cherokee peoples. If you hike at various places throughout Georgia, you'll see tiny signs along the trails pointing to the original peoples who spent generations on the land. And in the grace that only land can give, she has held me, a Potawatomi woman, and has reminded me of who I am. While hiking with my partner Travis and our two sons on that cold January day, I had an epiphany. That moment when the lens of my life zoomed out and I saw, truly for the first time, what Potawatomi people once experienced. A history of forced removal from Indiana into Kansas with the trail of death. In that moment, I was reminded of the women who walked, nursing their babies along the way, some 660 miles, just as I stood there, nursing my 1-year-old son in the middle of a wooded area, the trees breathing over and around us. There, standing over crinkled, wet leaves, I suddenly understood what it meant to be Potawatomi. Growing up, we said we are Potawatomi, but those words did not carry weight in our lives. We did not name ourselves as Indigenous people or as citizens of a nation living into our resilience. But that changed as I got older, and I have more fully come to understand that I am Indigenous. I belong to the land, as others belong to the land. I felt the weight of my entire body centered down in my feet, as if my steps were slow motion, engaging the pulse of the earth with every movement. I suddenly understood that ancestors sometimes come to us at the oddest ways, and mystery speaks to us when we are least expecting it. There, with one son at my side and one at my breast, I knew that the journey ahead of me would be different from the one behind me. That is how epiphanies work, after all. We got back into the car that day and drove away from Sweetwater Creek. While Travis drove, I pulled my journal out of my bag and wrote. I wrote about those women who spoke to me. I wrote about what it might mean to embrace a part of me that had been silenced for much of my life, silenced by a culture and a country that says that being Native doesn't really matter, or that all Native Americans disappeared from the face of the earth like the dinosaurs. I wrote for my own children, out of a desire for them to know who they are at the young ages of 1 and 3, so that being Potawatomi might define something in them. I wrote about hope and about that new beginning birthed along the edge of a creek on a cold winter day, a hope that transformed the entire world right before my eyes and brought me to myself in a way that I had never known was possible, that brought me to the reality of a God who sees and gives us the gift of seeing. My friends, as you go to rest tonight, I pray that the God who sees and who gives us the gift of seeing will enter your dreams and instill you with courage and hope and a deep longing to know your origins. Good night.